Now that we have data structures in C, such as arrays and strings and structs, we can combine these things. So for example, a database might consist of an array of structs. Within each struct, some of the members might be arrays themselves, or for example, strings, which are character arrays. We can also have nested structs, which is when you have one struct inside of another. Let's take a look at an example of an array of structs. So once we have a type for a structure, so here's my structure declaration where I have two members, an integer number member and a character code member, and the name of my type is item T. So again, that's the name of the type. I don't have any variables yet, but now that I have that type, I can declare an array of structures. So here the type of each element is item T, so the type of each element is one of those structures. The name of the variable is packages, and it's an array that has 10 elements. We could also initialize within the declaration by using nested curly braces. So once we have our array of structs, packages, there are several levels of expressions that we could have. If we just said packages, that's the entire thing. That's the array of structures. So since it's an array, we can refer to an individual element in the array. So for example, packages sub 1 is one of the elements in the array, the second element in the array, which is a struct. Since that is a struct, we can use the dot operator to refer to members of the struct. So for example, packages sub 0, the first element in the array, which is a struct, dot code, is the character code member within that struct. We could loop through the elements in the array by referring to packages sub I, where I is the loop variable. So since we have an array of structs, we can use a for loop to loop through the elements in the array and refer to each element as packages sub I, and then within that using the dot operator to refer to the individual members within each of the structures. Now with the nested struct, at least one member is itself a structure. So for example, we might have a structure for a line segment which has two members for the endpoints. Each of those is going to be a structure that has members for the x and y coordinates. So I'm going to define one type first for the endpoints. Each point is going to have two members for the x and y coordinates. Now it's important that you always have to define something before you can use it. So here I have my type def to define my type for point, for that kind of structure, and then I'm going to use that to declare members of another structure. So I have a second type def to define a type called line seg for a structure that has two of these points, point 1, point 2. Each of those is a structure of the type point, which has two members for the x and y coordinates of the points. So again, I have one type for a point that has the x and y coordinates, and I have another type for a line segment which consists of the two endpoints. Each of those consists of the x and y coordinates. So what I have now is I have the type point and I have the type line seg. Again, I don't have any variables yet, I just have the types. But now I could use those types to declare variables. So for example, point 1 pt, so 1 pt or 1 point, is a variable of the type point, which means it has x and y coordinates. So 1 pt is my variable that is a structure that has x and y coordinates. And I also have line seg, myline, so that's declaring a variable called myline to be the type line seg. So myline is a type line seg, which has two members, point 1, point 2. Each of those is a structure of the type point, so within each one I have x and y coordinates. So myline is now a nested structure. The variable myline has two members, point 1 and point 2. Each of those has members for the x and y coordinates. So once we have the types, we can use those to declare variables. A nested structure can be initialized in the declaration. So for example, line seg myline gets the value of, and then using nested curly braces. So again, what myline looks like is it's myline. Within that, we have point 1 and point 2. Each of those is a structure that has x and y coordinates. And now I'm initializing within the declaration. So the first point is 4, 2. So 4 is the x-coordinate, 2 is the y-coordinate. And the second point is 5, 9. So to get to the actual values, for example, to get to this value here, we have to go from my line to point 2 to x. So using the dot operator twice, my line.pt2.x has the value of 5.